Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. You know, I mean, he's very successful.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
Before his sudden disappearance, Gene Deal didn't just give interviews. He delivered warnings. And these warnings weren't about Diddy's infamous freak-off nights or the mountain of oil bottles the feds paraded in evidence photos. He was pointing to something far older, far stranger, and far more dangerous. In his chilling account, he spoke of hidden chambers beneath sprawling L.A. mansions, murmurs of shadowy rituals that made Diddy's wildest parties seem like children's games, and a silent pack among Hollywood's most untouchable to keep certain doors, both physical and symbolic, locked forever. Now, Gene Deal is gone, and the timing is too precise.
Is he a criminal? You know, is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law.
To brush off. All we have left are his cryptic clues, scattered like breadcrumbs, leading straight into a corner of the industry we were never meant to witness. Gene always swore the real action wasn't happening under flashing lights or in velvet-roped VIP lounges. It was hidden in places no paparazzi camera could ever find. He spoke of labyrinth-like corridors carved beneath some of La's most iconic estates, secret passageways you'd never see on any blueprint the public could access. And while the Playboy Mansion's rumored tunnel network was dismissed as a quirky urban legend, Gene insisted it was anything but. He pointed to the 1970s blueprints showing a route stretching beneath the golf course on Sunset, all the way to the homes of actors whose names still dominate movie marquees. According to him, these tunnels didn't just end in fancy wine cellars or secluded lounges. Some led to chambers locked from both sides. For years, the whispers were brushed off as tabloid fantasy, even when Playboy's own website published photos of a massive excavation in 1977, a post that coyly noted Hugh Hefner had no comment. But Gene's descriptions carried the weight of someone who had been there. He painted scenes of soundproof walls.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers. You know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers, why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have.
Older than most of Hollywood current elite, of air tinged with incense and a metallic tang. These spaces weren't for movie sets, at least not officially, though cameras were there. Whatever happened underground was meant to vanish without a trace, witnessed only by people powerful enough to make sure it stayed buried forever. It's that last detail that makes the next twist so disturbing. When federal agents raided Diddy's properties last year, multiple insiders claimed that among the seized evidence was a surveillance tape so explosive it could bring down household names overnight. No one outside the investigation has laid eyes on it. No network has dared to air even a second. Still, whispers say what's on that tape matches the kinds of scenes Gene warned about, gatherings where the real guest list was never written, and power was measured by just how far from public sites you could operate. If the tape is real, its silence in the press is deafening. Who has it now? And more importantly, who gained the most by making sure we never see it? Some will be quick to file this away with the so-called Michael Jackson Playboy Diddy Tunnel Triangle meme that made the rounds online and got debunked in hours. But that debunk never explained why so many veteran insiders quietly admit the underground network existed. They just won't say what it was used for. And if Gene's hints were accurate, that silence isn't discretion, it's protection. In Hollywood, we've all seen what happens when that protection is broken. Lawsuits appear, reputations implode, deals vanish overnight. Gene risked more than career suicide when he named names. He accused powerful figures in Diddy's circle of exploiting people at their most vulnerable. In the same breath, he described sealed corridors from the late 80s, staircases that led nowhere unless you knew how to unlock a wall. It's hard not to wonder now, what was waiting behind those walls? Some say the answer lies in what those videos were worth. In Gene's telling, footage from these hidden spaces wasn't just kept. It was sold, traded, used as leverage. Imagine being a Hollywood heavyweight, married, marketable, and knowing there's a tape of you in a room with 3 other men at a Diddy party. That's not just scandal, that's career execution. Even without a confirmed map, the puzzle pieces fit. The rumored Homie Hills tunnels were said to connect multiple A-listers directly to the mansion. If you believe the blueprints, someone could walk from a bedroom straight into an underground chamber without ever stepping outside. And according to Gene, those chambers weren't hangouts. They were stages for rituals too dangerous to film, unless the camera was meant to own you. Suddenly, that missing tape rumor stops sounding like gossip and starts sounding like motive. During the raids on Diddy's LA and Miami homes, agents cataloged evidence in bland, clinical language that often means the real contents are worse. Alongside crates of oil and props, some claim they seized digital media now locked away tighter than any indictment file. If even part of Gene's story is true, that media could be the smoking gun linking Diddy's modern freak-off culture to something older, darker, and far harder to prosecute. Which forces the real question, in a city built on illusion, how deep does this story go? The most chilling part isn't just Gene's description, it's what happened afterward. He wasn't the only one to peek behind Hollywood's velvet curtain and glimpse the machinery that keeps its smile running. Over the years, assistants who kept secret schedules, security guard who watched more than front gates, stylists who covered bruises makeup couldn't hide. Too many have disappeared from the industry without explanation. Sometimes it's a sudden illness. Sometimes it's a freak accident. Sometimes there's no public record at all. The official line calls it coincidence. But as that list of missing names grows, you have to wonder, who's crossing them off? Witnessing violence. That's what makes Gene's own fate feel so heavy. He knew the unspoken rules of Hollywood's deepest shadows. You don't speak certain names, you don't describe certain rooms, and you never put certain details on record. But Gene broke all 3. And within weeks, fans online began drawing eerie parallels between his story and the suspicious ends of other whistleblowers. That timing begs a question few dare to say out loud. Just how far would the system go to keep its darkness intact? The rituals Gene hinted at weren't champagne-soaked cliches of celebrity excess. According to sources, they were meticulously choreographed events where every object had a meaning, every step followed a script older than the guests themselves. They took place in sealed, windowless rooms designed to distort the senses, lighting that erased all sense of time, music that unsettled the mind, and a patchwork of symbols from traditions never meant to mix. In those moments, the hierarchy wasn't hidden, it was a show. The select few who ruled the room made sure everyone else understood the cost of admission. Gene confided to a few that what he had seen could rock Hollywood to its foundations, but he never shared the full list. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe carrying that proof was too dangerous. Yet, others have quietly echoed his accounts, leaving out the names, but describing masks meant not to hide faces, but to invert identities, where a person became something else entirely for the night. They spoke of chants in unknown languages, and a sudden shift in the air when the atmosphere turned from indulgence to threat. And now, in the early days of the Diddy trial, more disturbing whispers are surfacing. People aren't shocked anymore. They're bracing themselves. Because if even a fraction of what Gene described was caught on the rumored missing tape, this wouldn't just topple Diddy's empire. It could trigger a chain reaction that engulfs actors, executives, and even political figures. Those rumored to have attended these gatherings didn't stroll through front entrances or leave in the same cars they arrived in. They moved through strict protocols, handlers, decoys, and carefully staged distractions to keep the public record of their night spotless. But spotless stories only hold as long as the leverage remains hidden. That's why the missing surveillance tape isn't just gossip. It's potentially the most dangerous piece of media in Hollywood. If it's in an evidence locker, legal shields might be keeping it from public view. If it's in private hands, it's a bargaining chip too powerful to play until the stakes demand it. In the city, leaks follow a familiar pattern. The source gets silenced, the material vanishes, and the headlines shift. But Gene disrupted that cycle. His voice carried just enough credibility and just enough reach that ignoring him wasn't an option. Even months after his passing, his interviews are dissected frame by frame. Every pause, every glance off-camera pause for meaning. Those who've escaped the underground networks Gene spoke of live with a different kind of sentence. They move far from L.A., hide behind assumed names, and avoid attention at all costs. They speak in coded fragments, careful to bury the truth under metaphor, as if words alone could summon the people they fear. Because this isn't just fear of exposure. It's a knowledge that once you've seen behind Hollywood's curtain, the curtain sees you too. It's the psychological residue of years spent in a world where trust is currency and betrayal can kill you, not always with a bullet, but with a slow bleed of the soul. You don't leave those rooms clean. You leave with ghosts. And eventually, you push too far, cross too many lines. Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what Heath had to trade for his place at the table? These are debts you pay in ways you never forget, or escape. The memoirs that do slip out from behind the velvet curtain are never straight confessions. They are coded. They dodge. They change lanes mid-sentence, as if the writer is trying to purge memories without triggering some invisible tripwire. Between the glossy anecdotes, there are the slips, the strange after-hours meetings, the casual mentions of contract that sound nothing like music deals. If you read between the lines, they are not memoirs at all. They are smuggled messages. People don't realize what it does to you when something you love is ripped away and discarded like trash. They move on with their lives. You stay stuck. Some never leave the year they broke away. The paranoia isn't a delusion. It's survival. Survivors talk about cars they've seen trailing them for weeks, about anonymous calls that hang up the second they answer. It's psychological warfare, a way to whisper, "We still see you." Even without a single hand laid on them, the intimidation corrodes. You see it in the way they hunch in public, in the clipped tone of their speech, in how they always keep an exit in view. Therapists say it's almost predictable. The anxiety, the nightmares, the obsessive need for control. They avoid mirrors for months. They sleep with the lights on. They can't stop the old ritual from replaying in their minds like grainy film reels. Some run, never staying anywhere long enough to grow roots. Others disappear into solitude, hoping obscurity might equal safety. But there's another weight pressing down: money. Walking away from that world doesn't just cost you a lifestyle, it costs you your safety net. And when financial instability crashes into unhealed trauma, it's like a second hit. You're not just running from your past anymore. You're trying to outrun the ground caving in under you. In Hollywood's backrooms, burning a bridge isn't just career suicide. It's an unspoken death sentence. Once you're cut off, the doors don't just close. They lock, and the key gets melted. Some end up bagging groceries or washing dishes, quietly grateful for the anonymity. Others try to reinvent themselves in new industries, only to find their past trailing them like a shadow, passed along in rumors, whispered in meetings, cemented by the quiet but deadly industry blacklist. But in the cracks of this machine, a hidden resistance exists: encrypted chats, whispered intel, names passed in code. Gene's story still circles in these underground networks, not as tabloid fodder, but as a field manual, part warning, part survival guide. These survivors know one mistake, one slip, could expose them all. For them, speaking out isn't an act of bravery, it's an act of war. And the cost? Everything. Relationships splinter. Trust becomes rare. Even intimacy is calculated like a high-stakes gamble. They'll be living a normal day, until a headline, a mysterious package, or a familiar face cracks a facade and sends them spiraling back into survival mode. Decades pass, but the fear remains fresh. What makes Gene's claims hard to dismiss is the eerie overlap. Different survivors, different lives, yet the same initiation rituals, the same psychological chokeholds, the same cold disposal methods once you're no longer useful. It's too precise to be coincidence. Piece by piece, their testimonies form a mosaic of something much bigger, much darker than one man's story. Because here's the truth: no one escapes unchanged. They may have left the rooms, the corridors, the stagecraft of power, but those places live on in their heads, replaying without permission. And while the public debates whether to believe him, the survivors don't have that luxury. For them, the truth isn't a theory, it's a scar carved deep into bone. And maybe that's a quiet win, because for all the power these networks have to erase a name, they can't erase the ripples of a warning once it's spoken. The real question: will those ripples crash into a wave strong enough to shatter Hollywood's glass fortress? Or will they fade, swallowed by the silence? Gene risked everything to leave us with pieces of the picture. Now we're left staring into the dark, wondering, what's still hidden in the shadows? And who's next to vanish?